What would you do if the dream house you were building turned into a nightmare of incompetence and bullying? My parents faced this exact scenario, and their solution was a masterclass in turning the tables. It all started in 1973, when my parents saved enough to build a small ranch house in the country. The local bank approved their mortgage and signed a contract to fund a builder named Bob. But this is where the dream began to crumble. Bob was overbooked, leaving his clueless minions to do the work, and the results were catastrophic. This wasn't just a case of wrong paint colors. An architect forgot to erase a line on the blueprints, so the framers literally built a wall right through the bathtub. The garage door opening was framed into the living room wall instead of facing the driveway. My mother was explicitly warned, don't put anything heavy in the kitchen cabinets, because they were barely attached to the drywall with a few roofing nails, completely missing the studs. Throughout this ordeal, the bank and Bob treated my parents horribly, bullying my mom and lying to my dad. My mom, a stay-at-home mother with 2 small kids and a nasty rental, cried often. My dad worked 2 jobs while descending into a depression. What should have been the most exciting time of their lives was ruined. When the bank's inspector came for the final walkthrough, my parents met him on the lawn and refused to sign off. The representative got angry, furious that the bank had already paid Bob so much money. He strode to the front door to inspect it himself, pulled on the knob, and the entire door, frame and all, fell on top of him. It had only been wedged into place. This should have been a wake-up call, but it only made things worse. The bank threatened foreclosure, and Bob threatened to sue for breach of contract. My parents were terrified. They had poured all their savings into the down payment and couldn't afford a long court battle against a bank. Exhausted and defeated, they went to see an attorney named Tom. As my parents recounted the whole sorry mess, the plumbing, the electrical, the wall through the tub, they could see from Tom's face that they were probably doomed. But then, as he was sifting through their paperwork, Tom's expression suddenly changed. He abruptly smiled. Let's get everyone together for a meeting, he said, tomorrow. This revealed the antagonist's greatest fatal flaw, their arrogance. They saw my parents as simple country people they could intimidate, and in their sloppiness, they had made a critical mistake. The next day, my parents, Tom, the bank's rep, the bank's lawyer, Bob, and Bob's lawyer all met at the bank. Before anyone else could speak, Tom stood up and said, well, my clients have decided that they no longer want this house. Please remove it. The other side of the table erupted in laughter. Remove it? Have you lost your mind? Then came the payoff moment. Tom didn't argue. In a sweeping, theatrical gesture, he placed a single document on the conference table. It was a deed. My clients own the land the house is sitting on outright. Tom announced to the silent room, they no longer want the house on their property. Get it off my client's land. Bob's attorney stared at the deed, then turned to his client in disbelief. You built a house on land you don't own? Bob could only nod. Then the bank's own lawyer started yelling at their representative. You didn't finance the land the house is on? The rep just stammered. No. As one user on the internet astutely pointed out, in a small town back then, the builder and the banker were likely part of a good old boy network that figured they could just steamroll my parents. They never double-checked the basics. Tom's voice cut through the chaos, firm and final. As I said, gentlemen, you're trespassing. I expect the house to be removed and the land returned to its original state. At once, my dad said he'll never forget the blank, horrified looks they all passed to one another. The bank could foreclose, but only on a house sitting on land they had no claim to. Bob was out all the money he'd spent, and was now on the hook for demolishing the disaster he'd built. Suddenly, it was all such a misunderstanding. The bank and Bob couldn't do enough for my parents. At considerable cost to Bob, the house was immediately brought up to code and made perfect, exactly to the original blueprints, at no extra cost to my parents. They finally signed the mortgage. Bob got the rest of his money, and the bank's arrogant representative was fired. This story is a powerful lesson that knowing your rights and the fine print is the ultimate power. As it turned out, both the bank and Bob had used poorly written, unenforceable contracts, and our attorney saw it immediately. What do you think is the best way to handle a situation where you're being bullied by a bigger entity? Share your thoughts in the comments.